So we've seen stuff like this before the pandemic, but now that we have safety at home measures, it's ever more so apparent in our social media. And what I'm talking about is this idea of toxic positivity. And that might come across to you in messages like positive vibes only and things happen for a reason, no matter how crappy your situation is. And what's really detrimental is us following these suggestions instead of actually feeling that negativity or whatever emotion we're feeling. So it sounds really crazy, but why is this positivity so toxic, and how can positivity be toxic? We're talking about all that and more in today's episode. Welcome to Fearless Fridays, where we are talking about everything health and wellness related. My name is Dr. Melissa Chofi. I am the owner of New Quest Physical Therapy, a mobile practice serving areas in New York and Connecticut. There is so much misinformation out there in regards to the medical field, and with our healthcare model increasingly putting profits over patients, you as consumers need to be given all the tools you need to demand what you deserve, ensuring a strong, resilient, fulfilled, and fearless life. My goal is to empower all of you to stand up for yourselves and be able to call bullshit in a realm that is confusing as fuck. Let's get into the episode. I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a mental health counselor. I'm a physical therapist, so this is for educational purposes only and not to be taken as gospel or specific medical advice. So when we say toxic positivity, we mean you're basically like burying all those emotions, anything negative, anything anger related, any sadness, and we're trying to replace it with these positive sayings, affirmations, whatever. It's one thing to recognize positivity and gratitude and all of that. That's all great. But it's also really, really important to recognize feelings that might not be so rosy. We're all human. That's part of being human. It's how you channel that energy and what you do with that information that really makes the difference. So if you're always thinking like doom and gloom, things never go my way, I don't want to get out of bed, and you can never see the positive side of things or how to remedy whatever you're feeling, you may be actually doing yourself a detriment. So we see this in not wanting to get out of bed, neglecting our self-care, neglecting our jobs. And when it bleeds into our personal lives like that, that's when the negativity and all of that can become a problem. But if we sat down and we actually thought about what we are experiencing and how we can rectify any of those feelings, how we can use that as a building period or a positive, like turn it into a positive, if that makes sense, to actually work on it while recognizing what we're feeling instead of trying to bury it. That's where this, all of your strength is going to come from. If you can't get to that point, that's when it's a key idea to seek the help of a mental therapist or a psychotherapist. And a lot of them have been offering telehealth for a while. So if you can't go into a physical office, connecting with someone via telehealth to discuss what's going on and just connect with someone is so, so important. Part of why I'm doing this is because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I don't think enough of us address mental health and the importance of it. Just like anything else we're going through, physical health, all of that, we like to put so much importance on that, but mental health is really, really important. So if you're in that doom and gloom state, you can't get out of negativity, it's probably a good idea that you seek the help of a professional therapist. So as I mentioned before, toxic positivity becomes a problem when you try to just ignore the feelings that you're having and just bury them. One of the beauties of being an adult is that we learn that these emotions are okay, and we learn how to strengthen our coping muscles. And a lot of us, because we're so like positive vibes only, yeah, rah rah, we don't learn how to do that. And like kids act out of emotion and kids act on stuff and they bury feelings and they don't recognize them. But one of the beauties of being an adult is that we can do stuff like that, and then we can learn from things, and we have the maturity to then build upon that, learn, and grow. Toxic positivity might actually make you feel like more of a failure because you feel guilty for being negative. So I know a lot of people will be like, oh, well, why am I complaining about my ankles hurting? Because at least I can walk, even though I can't do anything else like run or hike. But there's so many people in the world who can't even walk. So I should just suck it up and deal with it because I can walk. So, like, that is doing yourself more harm than good because you're actually not trying to address your problem. And the comparison game is a big, big player in toxic positivity, in that we are not living lives for ourselves. Like, we don't recognize those emotions and then use them to get past that, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever, and build the lives that we actually want. We sit there and we feel guilty about complaining about stuff when people have it way worse. But those aren't our lives. And that might make me sound like a selfish person, but that's not your life. That's not my life. My life's way different than yours, and my life's way different than Susie's. And I want to build the life that I want to build for myself. If I can help Susie, awesome. Like, that makes my life even better. But that being said, I need to build the life that I want and the life that I'm capable of living. Another thing that toxic positivity may be enforcing you to do is ignore things that are an actual problem. Because maybe you're thinking like, oh, well, why am I focusing on this when I should be positive? I should just like accept things that are happening. So I was a victim of this when I went through 2 abusive relationships. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm just being a hard ass and I'm just a bitch. And maybe I'm being too hard on them. And in the reality of things, like, I was suppressing what should have been red flags. But because I was afraid of being seen as a negative person and being seen as a complainer, that I just kind of ignored things until they got so bad. And I was like, I got to do something about this. I see it with the clients I work with too. Like, I'll have somebody in my office or I'm working with her and she'll tell me what's bothering her. And she'll be like, oh, but now I'm just complaining. I shouldn't complain. And I'm like, you're not complaining. You're reporting. Like, obviously, this is something that's bothering you. It's something that you'd like to be addressed and remedied. Let's work on it. Let's recognize it. And let's fix it together. In addition to that, I'd like to add that if we're not recognizing what's making us angry, what's causing us grief, what's making us sad, then we're kind of burying who we are. And we're not able to be human and reflect that to society. So what happens in turn is that we become fucking exhausted. And life is exhausting enough. But when you're trying to be somebody you're not, it's even more so. So if you're trying to paint a smile on your face and then you have to keep up with that because that's what everybody knows you to be, the happy-go-lucky woman or man, whatever, then it's fucking exhausting trying to keep up with that. It's not you. It's not real. People will see right through that. And then if you're already kind of on the downside and you're not feeling your best, and then people aren't really coming to you as a friend, as a confidant, because they're seeing that you're kind of fake, because you're faking happiness all the time, you're going to be even more lost in that your network of support and social support is going to be either non-existent or it's going to be so superficial that it doesn't even matter in the end. And then I just wanted to end with the fact that there's a difference between being supportive versus supporting and emulating toxic positivity. So a toxic positivity example would be somebody that's like, oh, you just need to be happy. Like, it's that fucking easy. And then being supportive is more like, well, name some things that you're grateful for right now. And that kind of brings out, like, that's like concrete positivity. Like, that's real positivity. It's not putting a mask on. It's actually, you know how I like to say, like, internal work is so important. That's part of getting to that internal peace and seeing what's really grateful to you and what moves you and what's your why, even though I hate that phrase now because everybody uses it. But seriously, it's your why. Like, what are you grateful for? Toxic positivity is like, stop being so negative. And then a more supportive phrase is something like, I understand that after everything you've been through, you're feeling this way. Is there something that you'd like to discuss more? Like, do you see the difference, like, between masking and actually getting to the root of something? And whether you're supporting a friend who's going through this or you're going through it yourself, these are questions that you can go through on your own. You can journal about them. stuff like that, just getting to the root of things. And like I said before, like seeking mental help therapy is so important if you cannot crawl out of this. Like, I cannot even stress that enough. There are so many great counselors out there that are so underutilized. And I wish that there wasn't such a stigma behind mental health issues, because I'm sure a lot of us deal with them and we are just too afraid to get help. So if it's something that it has been plaguing you and something you just can't get over with by yourself or with help of family and friends, I really, really encourage you to seek professional help. So at the end of the day, ignoring our problems, whether they're good or bad, is never a solution, because then it can escalate into larger things and give us more complications than we actually need. Feeling down, sad, angry, pissed off, negative is okay. It's human emotion. It's just how we resonate those feelings and what we do with them moving forward that makes the difference, and how we constructively use that input and analyze what's going on that makes the difference. Stop chasing false happiness as a mask for what you're actually feeling, and start being a fucking human being. As always, keep educating yourselves, ask questions, demand more of your healthcare and your healthcare providers, and most importantly, stay fearless. And we'll see you next week.